Marie-Claire and Denis are 72 and 73 years old. They decided to leave their house to live more simply in a tiny house of 15.5 square meters on the ground, with 2 mezzanines for the bedrooms. If this choice already seems unusual for young working people who only come home in the evening after work, it seems even crazier for retirees who spend more time at home. I had to go meet them to better understand their way of life.
We didn't want to have a big house with a lot of maintenance anymore. We're happy, we don't regret it. And anyway, if we want to change, we can change. We can sell all this and go live.
In a nursing home.
Yes, maybe that's the next step. It's small, but has all you need. This is the living room area. Everything is a bit modular to save space, of course. There is storage under the bench, and here there's a compartment with quite a bit of stuff inside. This space here can be adjusted to make a sofa. So what else do we have? Down here we have a television with headphones, so we can each listen to our own show. Marie-Claire has her television upstairs in her room.
It's very important that each of us has our own little space when we want a bit of peace and quiet.
We don't always listen to the same music.
Not at all.
So there are plenty of storage spaces all over the place because obviously you have to save space. Here there's a closet.
The wardrobe?
The wardrobe. Yes, there are quite a few clothes. There are a lot in the cabins over there.
There is a cabin where part of it is used as a pantry, which is used for the fridges, which is used for the washing machine, the dryer, and a wardrobe. To be able to store the clothes properly, depending on the season, it would need to be bigger if we really wanted to put everything in.
Yes, tiny is obviously limited, so we have to have space like that. Especially since I do a lot of do-it-yourself in the garden, I need quite a few tools. And I also like working with wood, especially to arrange the interior of this tiny house. So then we have the salamander area. Well, salamander area is a big word because it's not really that much. We have this little table that can slide forward like this and we can lift it up because to save space if we want to dance.
Because when it's lowered, we can use the seat.
Oh yes, you can sit there. It's an extra chair.
There are drawers here, one for storage and one that we use as a step to get up to the bedrooms. And it also serves as a closet. There you go. And then on this side, we have a little storage for cutlery. All the small electrical appliances next to it, and we have cupboards for storing linens. Basically, everything you need, you have to use everything differently, otherwise you can't fit anything in. You'd have to have 4 extra cabins next to it.
Next, we have the kitchen, the actual kitchen area, so it's compact, but it has everything you need.
So yes, we are connected to the water supply because it was simpler that way. Since everything runs right next to it, it was easier. And so we also have a connection to the main sewer system. So there you go. That's how everything goes.
So then, yes, the bathroom, because you do need to wash yourself from time to time, along with the toilets, so dry toilets, because, well, it's still a personal choice. We could have connected to the main sewer, that's true. But ecologically, to save water. For starters, and since we have a compost with the garden, we can dispose of the waste in the compost, and on top of that, it becomes fertilizer for the garden. So these are separation toilets. The urine goes into the main sewer system and the other waste goes onto the compost with a foot pedal control. There's only cold water, no hot water. We noticed at home that when we just want to brush our teeth, the hot water takes too long to arrive. We used up 3 liters of water, whereas here we can adjust it. We're really saving water.
To finish, well, here are our 2 bedrooms. We each have our own because we need to have spaces, a little bit of privacy. Each of us we manage to put up with each other, so it's nice. So yes, you have to go up the stairs to get there, go up and down, but it's okay, it's good exercise. It's true that at first we said we wanted something on one level. Well, we don't have a choice here. If we want to live, we have to be able to go up. So after that, I don't know about putting in an elevator.
During this rather quick visit, Marie-Claire and Denis insisted several times on the importance of each having their own personal space. Living in a confined space really isn't that easy, and it's not something you can do with just anyone.
We've been together for a long time, so we're starting to know each other pretty well. So yes, maybe in a small space it can reveal some mood incompatibilities. Living together, that happens a lot on boats actually. People who think they can handle each other, they go off on a boat. And after a while in a space that's too confined, they realize that it puts...
We had already taken that step before, so that's good already. It's true that you have to realize that it's just that when you retire, when each of you stops working, there can be a bit of an adjustment period.
You're together much more often, that's it. But that's the same in any living situation. Yes, in a confined space, it's even more revealing. Yes, yes. For now, it's going well. We haven't fought yet.
No, we don't have too many bruises yet, not too many.
And even with the dog, it's going well. Well, we came across a friendly dog. Young people who start their life together, if they don't know each other well, it's true that it can be difficult to live on top of each other like that. By definition, a young couple. They still don't know each other that well, but it goes very quickly. You quickly realize if you're made for each other or not. That's really something that maybe should be experienced actually, maybe before getting married or getting into a relationship. Go do an internship in a nude size to see if you can stand each other. Yeah, that could be something. We could set that up, like, how would we call it? A space that reveals behavior, which would allow, yes, afterwards.
We've been together for almost 50 years now, so we know each other, right? Yeah?
If living in a small space brings so many constraints, many of you must be wondering why choose this more restrictive way of life?
Before we lived on a boat, we spent 5 years on a boat, on a barge. Well, a houseboat, and it was nice. We really enjoyed it. But we needed land to have a garden. We needed things like that. So it was a bit more complicated. And then, well, maintaining a boat is very expensive. So we decided to stop. And before the boat, we had a big house.
When your children were younger, you needed that. But now we don't need that much space.
So it's true that at first Denis would have preferred a wooden cabin outside and everything. But after looking at everything, well, after getting information about everything, it turned out to be more expensive in the end. If we wanted to have the same level of comfort, there would have been more space. Well, it was a choice. And then, while looking for something smaller, we came across the tahinis and we thought, what a good idea, right?
And we met Manu.
And we met Manu Chavance, so who, well, gave us a lot of information. It's true that, well, that's how the choice was made.
And also, I didn't really want to make the ground too artificial, but for a chalet, you have to make a slab. I think it's still pretty essential. Whereas here, there's nothing like that. There's no cement, there's no concrete. If we leave, we can take everything apart. We won't leave a permanent mark. So that was kind of my idea too. See, for them, I don't know. It has a big impact on the future of the planet, but at least I will have done my small part. There you go.
as Denis says, the big advantage of tiny houses is that you don't need a foundation. Since it's a mobile home, you don't even need a building permit, and that's often what interests people the most.
It's true that when we decided to set up a tiny house, we thought it would be simple, just put our little tiny house quietly on the land. Well, that's not true. There are still things to do that aren't always simple. It depends on the place you choose. You need prior authorization, which you usually have to request at the town hall. But now the town hall delegates everything to the community of communes, And it's not always easy because they don't always agree for various reasons. It could be because we're setting it up in a part of the land they don't like, but they don't say it right away. You really have to tell people who want to live in a tiny that there are constraints. You have to think about all that beforehand, and not once you're settled in, when you have to take everything out. So don't be afraid, go for it, ask for the permits, insist, show that you're determined, because that's the only way to see it through, but you can do it. There you go.
After this wonderful meeting with Marie-Claire and Denis, I wanted to learn more about building this kind of home. So I went to see Manu Chavans, the builder of this tiny house with whom Marie-Claire and Denis became very friendly. I especially wanted to ask him if it was really that unusual for retirees to decide to live in a tiny house. Subtitles MFP.
Often, the clients are retirees who reach a point in their lives where the children have left, whether they are separated or not. But there you go, they have a huge 300 square meter house, they're tired of the maintenance, and so they really want to reduce their ecological footprint and their living space, to have a small, comfortable living space where everything is there. Otherwise, it's people in their 30s who don't have children yet and who doesn't want to settle down in a particular place but wants the freedom to move around and change locations in France. Marie-Claire and Denis, that's typically the kind of clients who come to see me. It's really important for the clients to come and participate. For me, that's really the connection I managed to have with them. For example, Marie-Claire and Denis. They came here, they stayed in the parking lot next door with their camper van, and so I had them in my estimate. I handled the whole shell and weatherproofing phase, and they took care of all the interior finishing. It's a real learning experience for them to spend time with me working on their house, building their own home, in the sense that they'll know how to maintain it, they'll know how it's built. If there's any damage at some point, they'll know how to fix it. The goal is really for them to take ownership of their future home. Well, come on, let's go see how it's made. Whether it's a caravan or a tiny house, everything starts with a chassis, and so the chassis is the base that will allow us to keep the mobility of the home. We have road-approved chassis, and in that case, they're new chassis that have been inspected. It's about 5,000 to 8,000 euros per chassis, roughly. Or we stay local and the tiny house or the caravan will remain in the area. In that case, it can be moved with a tractor. And then at that point, we can switch to agricultural chassis that we can find secondhand. So the advantage of having a chassis is that we keep the mobility of the home. And when we go on the land, we don't need a foundation, whether it's piles or concrete foundation, it doesn't matter. We just need some earthwork. And the downside is that we're limited by the road size, so a maximum of 3.5 tons, a maximum width of 2.55 meters, and a maximum height of 4.3 meters. So step number 2 continued. When we receive the chassis, Next, we build a wooden structure. So it's the same technique as timber frame houses, except it's reduced in sections because we're limited by weight. I use Douglas fir because it's a wood that's structurally very interesting, and it's class 4 when it's heartwood, and I can get it locally very easily. Why is it important to have local wood? It's because it allows you to create connections with local stakeholders. And the association Plein d'Essence provides me with a lot of wood that I use for the houses. And I also work in a cooperative, the Cabestan cooperative, which allows me to create connections with other fellow craftsmen from the area. So the third step is to complete the wall. So we have the framework. Now the idea is to put insulation inside this framework. And here it's a bit more challenging because we have to make compromises between the weight and the living space. The advantage of a mobile home is that it's not considered a residence, so we don't have the same building regulations as regular homes. And we also don't have the obligation to comply with the current RT 2020 regulations. So we can use whatever we want, but in my case, I chose to use bio-based insulation. There are several options, either wood fiber or métis, which is made from recycled cotton, or plant-based insulation. And I chose plant-based insulation because it offers a good balance between acoustic and thermal properties. And I use 10 centimeters of insulation when it's a mobile home, and when it's not mobile, I usually go with 16 centimeters. So now we're going to close up the tiny house. So now he has to do all the exterior cladding. So for the siding, this one has a mix of siding and zinc at the bottom and on the roof. There are two possible options. For me, it's either standing seam zinc because it's more durable, more eco-friendly, and more aesthetic. Or it's ethylene propylene diene monomer membrane, which is used on green roofs. I don't use tiles because they're too heavy, absolutely not suitable. Steel tray is possible too, but it's also heavier, so everything is a matter of compromise. A small mobile home isn't easy for that. And now it's basically done. What's left is the interior layout, the electricity, the plumbing, and that's it. Either the clients come and do it at the workshop with me, or I deliver it weatherproof and airtight and they finish it themselves.
As Manu says, a tiny house is a matter of compromise, both in terms of size, price, and even ecology. In terms of size, we're limited by the trailer's dimensions and regulations. As for the price, we're far from economical housing. The tiny houses that Manu builds cost around 35,000 euros for the basic structure without water or electricity. So we're easily at 1,500 euros per square meter, which is equivalent to a traditional house, and at the same time, that's normal. When it comes to housing, it's hard to achieve economies of scale. And to finish with the ecological aspect, the fact that we're limited in size and weight pushes us to either use petroleum-based insulation, which is thinner and lighter, or to use a smaller amount of insulation when it's bio-based. This drawback is quickly offset by the fact that the house doesn't need a foundation, is entirely made of wood, and is very small, so it uses very little energy. If you're attracted by the concept of tiny houses, but you plan to leave it on a plot of land for its entire life, I would advise you to go for a house built on a foundation rather than on a trailer, like Claire's A-frame tiny house, which we filmed recently on this YouTube channel. Feel free to let me know in the comments what you thought of this tiny house, of Claire's tiny house. I'm always curious. And about all the other types of light housing as well, by the way. If you want us to do more reports on other types of light housing, really feel free to let me know in the comments.